Welcome to Lair the Alchemist, and welcome to a surprise emergency edition of Sabbath Sunday. We are here to talk about the Tony Martin era box set. Yes, it's here. It's happening. It's for real. It's almost hard to believe. It seems like years that we've been talking about the possibility of this. I've been on I'll believe it when I see it. Well, it's here. It's advertised. There's a date. It's for sale. We know what's on it. And we thought we would have a emergency broadcast here from the Sabbath Sunday crew to talk about it. So Darin, it's finally here. What are your thoughts now that you've seen what's in it, and now that we know that it's finally here? What are your range of emotions that you went through when you finally saw that this thing was happening?
I was suspicious at first because it looked like it was something that was sort of it looked fake when I first saw it. I'm not sure where it popped up, somewhere online. But then I started to see more of it, and more people started talking about it. And then I realized, I think I finally, when I saw it on the Rhino page, I knew that it was legit. Um, I'm a little disappointed. I think when we did our Tony Martin Sabbath Sunday show, it might have been like, was it? Do you think it was 2 years ago? If not, it was awfully close to two
Probably.
years ago.
Uh-huh.
We went off for a while, maybe an hour plus, about everything we had hoped would be on it. We talked about bonus tracks. We talked about extra live stuff. I had said that there's a lot of good shows, good soundboard recordings from in and around that era. I mean, we had this thing built up pretty big. Uh, so when we finally see the contents, it's a little disappointing. It's basically what you get: Headless Cross, you get Tear, you get Cross Purposes, and you get a remix of Forbidden. Um, Headless Cross, Tear, and Cross Purposes have all been remastered. And I don't know if you've listened to there's two songs that are out
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
I listened to them. I mean, it's kind of hard to get a read from listening to it on YouTube, but I mean, I had it going through Bluetooth in my car, and I was driving home on Friday after that was like the holiday. That was like the what is it, Anno
Yeah.
Domini coming out party online. And so on the way home from work, I was I was listening to Headless Cross, and it sounded good, man. It sounded fuller. I mean, I can hear more guitar. So I'm pretty optimistic about the remasters. I'm very curious to hear the Forbidden remix. I don't know. I mean, is it going to transform the entire album into something that it wasn't before? No, of course not. But I mean, it could be a more entertaining listen. I think it's cool. I mean, I am excited about it. I pre-ordered it. The bonus stuff is kind of cool. It's whatever. You get a Headless Cross tour poster. I think there's a book in it. I have the contents written down here. Let's see here. You get well, in the CD version, you get the bonus track. You get a bonus track for Headless Cross, which is Cloak and Dagger. You get There is no bonus track on Tier. You get the bonus track on um Cross Purposes, which is, what's the name of it? Guilt, is it Guilty
What's
as Sin? Is that
what's the use? I think is
what's the
the
use?
yeah.
Okay. And then Guilty as Sin, I guess, is the
Yeah.
song, is it, or
Forbidden bonus
Forbidden.
track.
So, but you only get those if you buy the CD. If you buy the vinyl, you get no bonus tracks. And that's a shame, because I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to get the bonus tracks on the vinyl, but powers that be decided that they weren't going to do that. But anyway, you get a Headless Cross poster, a replica concert book from the Headless Cross tour, and I guess that's it. You get four records, you get a poster, and you get a book, all housed in what looks to be kind of a cool design box set. Here it is. I mean, it's validating the Tony Martin years, which I think a lot of people. I think that's the main takeaway from this thing is that they finally the Tony Martin years of Black Sabbath are getting validated and back in back in circulation on Spotify. And so the people that are fans of the Tony Martin era, we've been vindicated. Those who aren't a fan of the Tony Martin era are pretty much indifferent to it. But of course, like anything else, there's a lot of chatter online and people are disappointed. They don't understand why Eternal Idol isn't part of this box set. But what you have to understand is that these records in the box set are the IRS releases. Eternal Idol was on Warner Brothers, and that had already been released in the deluxe format. And so there really isn't any need to put that or include that in this box set. One valid gripe is the Cross Purposes Live is not in
Mhm.
this box set. I agree with the disappointment. I'm a little
Yeah.
surprised about that, in a way. But then, thinking about it and doing a little bit of poking around online, I can kind of understand that, there is this situation that exists with Sharon Osbourne. A lot of the songs on Cross Purposes
Mhm.
Live are Ozzy era songs. Also, this wasn't released by IRS, it was released by the film company.
Mm.
So I think maybe the contract or the terms of agreement were based
Yeah.
on Black Sabbath in this situation with IRS, but
Yeah.
nothing else. And so when we get into live, Cross Purposes Live, you're talking about Ozzy era songs, and of course that's a tricky one. So I think that's what happened with Cross Purposes Live. But I've also heard, I don't know if it's true or not, I don't know how reputable it is, but there may be a release sometime in the future. Um, from there was no DVD release of Cross Purposes Live. It was only on VHS. So I've heard that there could be a re-release of the music portion of the audio as well as the film to Blu-ray. But who knows? But again, it's all speculation. But for what we know, this will be out on May 31st, and it will be the four albums from the IRS days and a couple of the bonuses that I just mentioned on the poster in the book. So that's essentially it.
Yeah. This has been such a long time in waiting. This has been delayed so many times. When Tony Iommi came out a couple months ago and he mentioned something about the box set and he said that there was red tape and it should be out in May, people were quick to jump and say it's here. And my reaction was should. You
Yeah.
always have to read between the lines when it comes to Black Sabbath. And when it came to this box set, have you ever seen that meme that there's a guy, his psychologist is there and a guy sitting on the sofa and you can type in whatever you want into the meme? In my mind, I wanted to type in, so is this Tony Martin box set you keep talking about, is it in the room with us right now? Because that's kind of what it felt like. Like, are we imagining this? Does this really exist? Are we in some sort of alternate timeline? But it's here. I kind of had a feeling we were going to be disappointed because if you go back through any of our Sabbath Sundays, I'm usually pretty harsh on Black Sabbath. I feel like they never really give the fans what they want. So I kind of knew that being that it, if you're a fan of this era of the band, it's hard to put yourself outside of this and realize that this era of the band is the least popular era of the band. And so thus it's not really going to sell a lot. And if they're having trouble selling Technical Ecstasy box sets, and as we sit here right now, we're still waiting on some of the missing box sets. If they have trouble selling that, you can imagine maybe the hesitation involved when you get into how many copies of these Tony Martin box sets are they going to sell. But it's here. I mean, I figured that the bonus treaties, Japanese bonus, for those who don't know, the bonus tracks that are on there were the songs that were on the Japanese versions of the albums back in time. I don't quite understand this. There was just some agreement with the Japanese market that they always get a bonus track. So you see this with a lot of bands' albums. So that's why those are on there. You made a good, I didn't know that about cross purposes, and that makes to cross purposes live. And that makes total sense now. Somebody had also suggested a possible record store day release. I don't know if they were just
Oh,
pulling this off the top of their head, but this would be a good example of something that would be perfect for a record store day release. I kind of have trouble seeing them putting out a DVD or a Blu-ray just because nobody buys DVDs anymore. You know, the sales of
yeah.
DVDs is like almost non-existent, but I could see a record store day thing. Also of note, it's a the Forbidden remix for everybody out there, and I'm already seeing this pop up in discussions on Facebook and stuff. I made a video a while back on the difference between a remix and a remaster. I'll try to remember to link that down below. I'm already hearing people say things like, boy, I hope that they can take some of the reverb off of Tier and stuff like that. That's not going to happen. A remaster is simply you can remaster an album yourself, buy an equalizer, or go into Spotify into the equalizer section and boost the treble or lower, cut the bass. That's essentially all they're doing there. Now, a remix, like what we're going to get with Forbidden, is they're actually going in, they can change levels, they can re-EQ individual instruments, take away reverb, put things on, take things away. I'm not going to get too excited about that because I did recently read something with Tony Iommi where he said, I liked the guitar sound on Forbidden, but Cozy never liked the drums. So I'm kind of doing this for Cozy. So I think that it's not going to be anything radical. I think that it's not going to be anything mind-blowing and quite it's not going to be like a potential Born Again remix where Born Again there's a lot of stuff going on in Born Again, in the sound of Born Again. Uh, and quite honestly, my issue with this is a whole nother topic, but my issue with Forbidden is the songs. It doesn't really have anything to do with, I mean, maybe a remix will add something to it that brings some of the stuff to life. So that's kind of interesting. We're also getting, if you're a vinyl collector, a vinyl fan, you're getting some of these albums Forbidden for the first time on vinyl. Cross Purposes had a very limited release, very, very hard to find copies of Cross Purposes. So for all intent and purposes, you're getting Cross Purposes on vinyl too. Tier was hard to find to a certain degree. Headless Cross a little bit less, but all the Tony Martin stuff is hard to find on vinyl. So getting this stuff on hopefully well pressed, nicely done vinyl. Rhino is pretty good about
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, putting out quality products. So having some nicely pressed quality versions of these albums on vinyl is something to get excited about if you're a vinyl collector. Disappointing we don't get the bonus tracks. Kind of understand it. They probably didn't want to push some of these albums to double vinyl. And they're already pushing the limits of vinyl, like Cross Purposes, I think is 49, 50 minutes or something like that. They're all on the long side for vinyl. So they couldn't squeeze those on there, but they could have given us a 10-inch single, maybe two 7-inch singles. Maybe it's only three extra tracks, so maybe even two 7-inch singles they could have given us to just to give us those on vinyl. So that's a little bit disappointing, but at this point, beggars can't be choosers, and I never thought that this was going to materialize at all, knowing how uh, all the
Yeah.
legal entanglements. You mentioned Black Sabbath and Sharon Osbourne earlier. Who knows what kind of external pressure there seems to be. If you go to the official Black Sabbath website, they only discuss and only sell things related to the Ozzy era. I just checked recently to see if there was anything about the Live Evil uh, remix that came out within the last year, and there is no mention of anything on the official Black Sabbath website besides the Ozzy era stuff. So who knows what kind of external pressure exists for them to even get this stuff out under the Black Sabbath name. So disappointing that there isn't more on it, but at this point, hey, I just can't believe that this thing is actually happening here. All the time we've been talking about this, all the delays, all the speculation. Uh, I'm just happy it's here. It's going to be on the streaming services. So maybe this will be. I was just talking to a good friend of mine I went to high school with who's a huge Black Sabbath fan. He especially loves Martin there. And one of the things we said was, is maybe this will bring some long overdue attention and respect to the Tony Martin era of the band. Now that it's available on the streaming services, maybe people will stumble across it that way. Maybe we'll get some press on this. Maybe Tony Martin will be out there doing some interviews and helping promote it. Maybe Tony Iommi will do some too. So maybe this will bring some long overdue attention to the Tony Martin era. Maybe it'll help some people reevaluate this. Maybe you're somebody that had Headless Cross on cassette and you lost it ages ago. Well, now here's your chance. It's going to be on all the streaming services. You can revisit this stuff. You can reevaluate it in 2024. Uh, so in the end, it's all good. I'm just glad that this thing is here.
Yeah, good point about revalidating this era of the band. I mean, who knows what lies in store? I mean, there could be something planned, something in the works where maybe Tony's going to get back together with Tony Martin. I don't think Geezer would be involved with it. Who knows who else they would get on bass and drums? But I mean, it could center around Tony Iommi and Tony Martin. They don't have to call it Black Sabbath, and we've talked about this a bunch of times. They can call it Headless Cross. They can call it whatever they want to call it. But this could trigger a resurgence for that era of the band. And now that they're being presented in a better sounding way, the remaster, um, it may spark interest, and it may be something that could kickstart this new old era of Black Sabbath back to being relevant again. We'll see. I mean, stranger things have happened, but it wouldn't surprise me if that might even be the plan. And maybe I think it was like a year or so, maybe 2 years ago, we saw something about Tony Martin going to a meeting with Tony Iommi.
Mhm.
If it was just about this box set, I mean, do you really think that it would require a in-person meeting? Who knows? That's usually something that can be done with representatives through email and whatnot. So the fact that these two guys met up, spent some time together, who knows? Could be wishful thinking. Um, but I mean, it could be that this is just the launching part of a bigger plan. I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful because I would just like to see I'd like to hear some new music with Tony Iommi. The Tony Martin era, I think there's potential for I don't think the best Tony Martin album has come out yet. My personal favorite is Cross Purposes, and we just did our Cross Purposes podcast last week, so we go in detail about that. But some people favor Headless Cross, some people favor Tear. To me, I don't think the ultimate Tony Martin album has happened yet. Um, that may be something yet to come. And who knows? I mean, this could be the springboard for another Tony Martin album with Tony Iommi.
Yeah, that would
I
be
hope so.
amazing. And Iommi, call it Iommi Martin. And
Whatever.
even just, in the day age of streaming, why not like
Yeah.
just put out two songs or something? Tony did that song for his perfume thing or his cologne thing
Yeah.
not that long ago. And it seems like Tony Iommi still wants to continue making music. I would say, like you mentioned, I think the geezer is pretty much retired from the biz. We
Yeah.
all know, Bill Ward's health is not there. But the whole thing with the Martinaires is just it always felt like there was this hole in the catalog, and
Yeah.
the stuff has been out of print now for ages. I mean, these CDs have never even been remastered. There's never been any kind of anything
No.
done with these besides the original pressings. So there was always this big gaping hole in the catalog, and we're not talking about one record that somehow slipped through the cracks. We're talking, what are we, Headless
An era.
Cross here? Yeah, we're talking 4 albums that, for all intents and purposes, have been completely ignored and not discussed and not acknowledged. And it would just be nice. And I have a feeling that Tony Iommi feels this way too, that all eras of the band are valid. And it's irritating. I mentioned the official Black Sabbath website. It's really irritating that they only discuss the Ozzy records, advertise the Ozzy stuff on there. We have a joke and a saying that we do at the end of the podcast. You can only trust yourself in the 19 Black Sabbath studio albums. And it's because, I mean, they're all valid in their own way. Yeah, we could sit here and we could discuss which ones are better than the others and all that kind of stuff, but they're still part of the history. And to have this huge chunk of their history not acknowledged, represented, not even available for somebody to stumble across. For some kid who just heard Paranoid on classic rock radio and he pulls out Spotify. Well, at least now we officially have all the Black Sabbath albums there on the streaming services. Anybody can discover any of these albums. There may be somebody out there that maybe this is they hear this stuff for the first time and it resonates with them. It should be out there, and it's been so irritating that for so many years that this stuff never got the respect that it deserved. It was like never discussed. It was just completely forgotten about. And so now we're
Yeah.
we're finally getting that. Hopefully it does get people talking. Hopefully it does get people reevaluating this era. And I hope for all those people out there, because I mean I'm already seeing this, like, oh, those albums suck. Only Ozzy era is real. Only Ozzy and Dio stuff. And I would just, if you haven't listened to this stuff in a long time, now's your chance to revisit the stuff. I'm sure it'll be
Yeah.
on YouTube. It's on YouTube right now, but like I said, it'll be on the streaming services and all that stuff. So you can visit this stuff and not really have it cost you any money. And it does feel nice now to just have the whole Sabbath catalog. Is you want to get any of it on vinyl, it'll be out there. Another complaint about the box set, and I heard our friend Stephen Keeler, who was here with us for our Never Say Die, in defense of, and he owns a record store, Rock Fantasy, in upstate New York somewhere. And I saw him comment like, man, I wish that they had separated these because it's harder for me to sell a box set than it is for me to sell individual. And who knows, maybe at some point in the future that will happen, that they're separated like that, because there is some truth to that. There may be somebody out there that is kind of like, yeah, I like this era, but $100 for a vinyl box set, and I just kind of want to get one and see how I like it, type of thing. I do wish that was available to people. It might help sell some more of them.
Yeah, that could happen. I thought that might happen when Ozzy put out his box set,
Yeah, exactly.
but it didn't. I mean, I think there's some imports that are available. Maybe they came out of that box set. Maybe they came out of that pressing. I don't know. I mean, some of the actual record labels are different. But yeah, I thought that because I mean the Ozzy box set was really expensive. I think it was $400 brand new, and then it was pressed in a limited quantity. So within a month or two, it skyrocketed up to like $800, and now I think
Wow.
it's like to get one, it's like well over $1,000. But I thought once it ran its course that they would press the albums individually so people could, maybe they don't want Osmosis, but they may want Down to Earth, or maybe they don't want Scream, but maybe they want Black Rain or what have you. Um, they did put out. for Record Store Day a picture disc of No More Tears, and I think before that they did a repress of No More Tears on double vinyl, which was cool. And I guess that's probably the most popular album. Well, I mean, other than Diary and Blizzard and Diary, probably the more popular, one of the more popular albums, and probably warranted having its own pressing. But anyway, who knows? I mean, that could be the case. Once the Tony Martin box set runs its course, they could do individual pressings, and it could be based on whatever gets the most amount of streams on Spotify or something. They could say,
Yeah.
well, Headless Cross seems to be getting most of the streams, so all right, well let's do a standalone pressing of Headless Cross, or maybe it's cross purposes or whatever. Maybe they'll see which album seems to be doing the best and make a standalone pressing of that. Who knows? Um, so yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, it is kind of a thing where it's like if you're not really sure about the Tony Martin era, and you're thinking, well, I have all the other Black Sabbath albums, and I'm a Black Sabbath fan, and I'm not really that familiar with this era. I've heard a song here and there. I've heard Headless Cross and so on and so forth. But man, I'm just not really sure if I'm going to like it. Um, you can get the CD. The CD package is I think $60.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. Still pricey, So I mean, for being on the fence about checking something out, you do have to kind of make a monetary commitment to it, and that could be a hard sell. But I don't know. I mean, now that Black Sabbath has been kind of out of the picture now, I mean, it's been the end now for how many years? 5 years, I
Yeah.
think. Um, so there is maybe a bit of a demand for Black Sabbath material. I think the Live Evil box set did pretty well. So and the material on this Tony Martin era box set, for all intents and purposes, could be new to a lot of people because
Yeah.
they may have been really too young when it came out. You can still find the cassettes used. You can find some CDs used, but you can't buy it. You couldn't buy it new. It was out of print. You
Hmm.
couldn't find it on Spotify. You could probably, I think you can listen to it on YouTube, maybe,
Yeah.
but it was pretty hard to come by. So for a newer generation of fans, this may be something that they're going to just totally discover as something new, and it could generate a lot of excitement. Sometimes when things go away for a while,
Yeah.
and then they come back, people are really enthusiastic about it. When a band breaks up for like
Yeah.
5 years, they couldn't sell out a telephone booth prior, but then they break up for 5 years and they reform, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
everybody's like losing their minds over them. Um, this could be the same sort of a scenario. Nobody really cared about the Tony Martin era that much when it was out, when it was current.
Yeah.
But now that it's been gone for as long as it has, maybe now it's like, there's a lot of excitement, and there's just like could be a lot of enthusiasm about it. Who knows? We'll find out.
Yeah. I do wish that and I don't think we're gonna get this, but if they were offering some other things like a shirt for each one of the records that you could buy with the cover of each one of the records, or just some other merchandise, to help promote it and stuff. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, but I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Not through the official blacksabbath.com site, but I don't know. Maybe Tony Iommi does something on his own, but yeah. So it's here. We're happy it's here. We're looking at, what did you say, May 31st? Did
May
anybody double
31st.
check? Does it say 2024 or does it say 2037 or something like that? Are there
I
31
actually,
days in May? Somebody look at a calendar really quick,
yeah, yeah,
right?
I actually
Because
did check to make sure it said 2024 that we were talking about this year. Because it's funny when Tony Iommi he put his New Year's Day message out, and he said, we've been working on the box set, and I maintain like we don't know what box set he's talking about.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I was not going to get too like presumptuous about it. I mean, what is he talking about? He
It's
said the box set, but is it the one that we were all led to believe was up next? Who knows?
right. When it
But
comes to Black Sabbath, when these guys talk, I really wish the interviewers would just nail them down. Wait a minute. You said
Yeah,
box set. What box set are you talking about? Please be specific because they always talk like in these generalities, like, oh,
yeah,
we're working, we got some stuff, it should happen. We're working on some stuff, It's
yeah,
just like
yeah.
so vague. And then everybody's wheels get spinning and
The other thing, though, is for people that aren't enthusiastic about this box set, I've seen some chatter about people saying that, okay, well, now we can get this out of the way so we can move on to the Born Again
yeah,
remix, remaster, box set,
maybe.
possibly whatever's next in line. At least we got this. We're over this hurdle, which
Yeah.
is what it is to some people because they're not interested in it. But it brings them closer to what they are interested in. And that could be the Born Again, or we still have Master of Reality. We still have
Sabbath,
possibly a
Bloody
Seventh
Sabbath.
Bloody Sabbath.
Yep.
Maybe something with the first album. Who knows?
Yep.
So that's another way to look at it too.
All right. The future looks bright for Black Sabbath releases and material.
Yeah, go figure.
So we'll see. We'll check in with you again. Of course, when the box set comes out, maybe we'll do something else again, or we'll see. But we just
Yeah,
wanted to have this jump in here. It's certainly got everybody on the internet buzzing and
big
social
news.
media and the Sabbath forums and all that stuff. Everybody's talking about it. So
Yeah,
exciting times in the world of Black Sabbath, and we'll be here with you at Sabbath Sunday and at our podcast all along the way. So thanks for checking in with us here for our bonus Sabbath midweek Sabbath Sunday episode, and we'll see you all real soon.